Welcome to Tales from the Switch Vault, where I, Jim, look back at some of the weird and wonderful games from Nintendo Switch. This time I line up the blocks and blobs in Puyo Puyo Tetris. Originally released as a Japan exclusive in 2014 for the 3DS, Wii U, PS3 and PS Vita, it wasn't until 2017 that the game was finally ported worldwide to PS4 and then eventually Nintendo Switch and PC. Created by Sega and published by Deep Silver in Europe only, it launched as the first puzzle game on Switch 1. The title brings together two huge puzzle games together for the very first time. These are your classic falling block, tile, blob puzzle games, positioning them as they fall to either create a full line in Tetris or group four same colour Puyos together. There is a huge emphasis on competing against an AI player, usually getting your lines or chains together, then add additional ghost tiles or garbage Puyos to the other player, causing them to fail faster. If a player fills up the board to the top, they fail. The core to Tetris is building up a wall 4 high and then using the I Tetramino to get a full block of 4 or a Tetris to score big points and add more problems to the other players. Puyo Puyo is about matching 4 colours together, though not diagonally, but it is actually about a cascading number of combos that bring out the huge points. For instance, having 4 greens disappear to then have 4 reds fall down to come together counts as a 2 combo. This makes your approach to building and solving the matching completely different, basically needing you to flip a switch in your brain when swapping between the two games. I'm still learning the strats, but it's been very enjoyable so far. I will say it's one of the few games I preferred with the Joy-Con buttons rather than a D-pad, though I suspect at higher difficulty levels the latter is far superior. As with all the classic games, this is about getting high scores, not only from lines or combos, but quicker movement tile placement. Visually, the game is an explosion of colour. It has a really nice cartoon design and stands out compared to most other titles. The Tetraminos and Puyos look really sharp, pop off the screen, are instantly recognisable. It's got a very clean layout, though in handheld mode it's a little disorienting to quickly check your score or level mid-game. The sub-menus are pretty easy to understand and navigate, though as it's so bright and colourful it can be a little bit overwhelming paired with a number of menus and options. However, when you are in a level and locked in, the dull, dark background and grid system makes it surprisingly easy to focus. Having multiple items and next really helps planning much more viable rather than just reacting. It's always a relief to see the eye block pop up. With the classic vertical rectangular design, it surprises me there isn't a tate mode, whereby you rotate the switch 90 degrees and have it vertical. It's often used in shmups, but it would have been really cool to see full screen Tetris. Though, not only is it cumbersome in handheld and broadly impossible on the TV, it also brings into question how you display the stats well. Maybe something for the future though. The music is really good. It has the new takes on the classic Tetris theme, which I adore. Though as it often so happens to me after a few seconds of a match, I tend to ignore the tunes through sheer concentration. I think games like Balatro hit it right. One 20-minute-ish track that just loops around, that you can dip in and out of. Obviously the matches aren't that long here though. In adventure mode, it has a really good English voice acting, which I was not expecting. Sure, the dialogue tends to get too long-winded, but it's a nice touch to have here. What is really satisfying though are the in-game sounds, whether it's the thump of a block as it lands, or a ping of a line as it's been created. I now understand why gambling or slot machines have such an audio hook. Weirdly, my favourite design element here is actually the homepage, with its 4 options of main menu and then below Puyo Puyo, Fusion and Tetris. This makes it incredibly fast and super easy to get right into matches. It really leans into the series history of just jump in and aim for a high score. I kept coming back to these for some quick time-killing sessions. Speed of access is the real bonus here, but it's always the same mode and you can't change any of the settings. For that, you have to dive further into the menus, and if you're going to do this, you should check out Adventure Mode. It has snack-like levels that are over in as little as a minute or two that test you on how many lines you can create or combos, and it slowly introduces the different game modes, and is the best possible introduction for newbies. It's also the deepest part of the game, and outside of the story is immensely satisfying to get through. How this title stood out prior to its sequel releasing is that it was, and still is, an excellent entry point for either or both series. It contains lessons for all 3 game versions, split into beginner, advanced and expert sessions. They aren't overly long, but actually pretty good tutorials how the basics works and what strategies to use. Actually, this is the first Puyo Puyo game for me, and it took a little while to get my Tetris-trained brain to understand it. These lessons are essential for the final game version and Fusion, a mixture of both titles. In this, both blocks and Puyos fall with broadly the same mechanics. However, you can use the Tetraminos in a smashing move to push down on a pile of Puyos that then get moved to the top as a group. It's an interesting dynamic. Though it takes such a shift to understand, I kind of prefer playing either or. It's great that they went all the way to combine such games though, a really nice thought. As for Switch 2, the game is compatible and runs really well, but at the time of writing there is no special upgrade for it. That's saved for Puyo Puyo Tetris 2. However, you have to buy the whole game again, even if you own 2 on Switch 1. For me, this is a very poor choice by Sega. A paid upgrade makes way more sense and is tempting for more people such as myself for a reasonable fee, something like Civilization 7. I doubt that they will make much more money out of a new game, but I could be wrong. The Adventure mode is about 8 hours in length, which is a decent amount. It's up to 40 in total to finish everything at 3-star every level. However, as it contains 2 classic puzzle series, it's technically endless, though I suppose it depends on what you get from it. There's online play for up to 4 people, high score chasing, which is particularly fun in our house, and an all-round excellent time killer. I'm impressed with the amount the game contains. Feels like there's something for everyone. Weirdly, it also contains an in-game shop, using coins you earn through gameplay to unlock new designs and voice acting, so there's kind of progression. Although I knew this was a Sega-made game, I didn't realise it came from Sega CS R&D Department No. 2, otherwise known as Sonic Team. I have probably been focusing too much on Nintendo, who have their studios focus on a couple of games. Sonic Team though have a ridiculously varied history, even with that name. It's actually changed many names since forming in 1990. It started off with the legendary Sonic the Hedgehog. Throughout the years they have worked on titles as different as Phantasy Star Online, Samba de Amigo, and Mario and Sonic at the Olympics series. In recent years the studio has focused more and more on just Sonic games, with the Switch receiving the well-received 3D game Sonic Frontiers and the very forgettable 2D mainline Sonic Superstars. Puyo Puyo Tetris won the 2017 Game Puzzle Award from the National Academy of Video Game Trade Reviewer Awards. It scored a very respectable 81 on Metacritic, and by 2020 it had gone on to sell over 1.4 million copies across all devices. This is an interesting game to come to with limited experience of either title. My Tetris time harks all the way back to the Game Boy and that glorious music. Since then I've dabbled a little in Tetris Effect, though nowhere near enough to figure out and test out strategies. I've always seen this series as a time killer, dip in and out for 20 minutes for mindless fun. Puyo Puyo I've heard of and seen clips online, but never graced any of my gaming devices. This is the ideal title for myself, gently bringing in an amateur and training them up on both excellent games. The mashup seems to work well, but takes a decent understanding of both games to enjoy and do well at. As for complaints, the story mode is obviously made for kids, and while initially harmless, it eventually starts to grate. First the amount of times I rolled my eyes, then the dialogue sections were getting longer than the actual levels, which for me is an absolute disaster. It was so snappy for the first few levels, and for all a game about speed and response, this really lets it down. Fortunately, you can skip all the dialogue. A bit more training on Fusion would help, and having the HD rumble set to off to start with seems like a huge misstep. The biggest eyesore though is the garish yellow background of the title. It's actually quite off-putting. Fortunately, they changed that to white in the sequel. It's hard for Tetris on Switch as it has the excellent Battle Royale in Tetris 99 and the fantastic Tetris Effect for those wanting more from that side. Even Nintendo Switch Online has Game Boy Tetris now. Still, this is a great entry for people, and although I have yet to play 2, this has more than enough to keep most people satisfied. The biggest compliment I can give to this game is it really helped me make me a better player in Tetris, and finally understand what a Puyo is. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more weekly Nintendo Switch video game essays, and comment below which Tetris game is your favourite. Right, time for me to finally figure out Fusion.